Hello and welcome everybody back to another episode of the Real Connection podcast. I am Sean Santoro, mortgage specialist with TMG, the mortgage group, and my co-host Dave McCall. Dave, say hello to all.
Hello, everybody. Glad you're back with us.
And today we are very, very lucky. We've got Robert Redmond. He is a home inspector and an energy auditor here in Windsor, Ontario. And he is going to be walking us through some tips and tricks and just kind of the tools of the trade and all the stuff that has to do with checking out properties and making sure that that you're getting the right place, that you know what you're getting, and you don't get fleeced. So, Robert, thanks very much for coming on today. We appreciate your time. We know you're busy.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
So, and sorry, how long have you been, for people that aren't familiar, kind of, A, what is it that you do? And B, how long have you been doing it for?
So home inspection, I started my company September 2014. So this will be my 10th year in September. Energy auditing, I got my license about 6 years ago to do energy audits.
Nice. So those two businesses are kind of complementing each other well then, yeah?
Correct. Yes. Actually, one's kind of restricting the other at this point. Energy audits are affecting me not being able to do as many home inspections.
Right. Gotcha.
Trying to find someone to hire. It's a process.
Now, Rob, quick question. With the economy the way it was like last year, I mean, just going on all cylinders and everything else, how does the business compare last year to this year? And what are you looking at for when the interest rates drop and things start picking up again?
Yeah, so on the home inspection side, last year was my busiest year as a company as a whole, and this year will probably be even busier. But during the peak of the market for home inspections, I was still pretty busy, but they were mostly pre-offer, so you can't really put a conditional offer with an inspection. So you would get it inspected before you place an offer. So I mean, they were still pretty busy. During COVID, obviously, they slowed down. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, they're still pretty busy. Just depends on the agent. A lot of agents will push them, but some agents will just say you can't get a home inspection, and then their clients believe them, and they just don't get one. So,
Gotcha. And so for those that kind of aren't familiar with that, let's say it's me, and I'm going to see a house, and it's at 456 Riverside Drive. If we're not not advised to put the home inspection condition in our offer, how is it that we're doing it? Like, are we just coordinating with you and the realtor and saying, hey, we've got a showing scheduled for, Thursday at 7 p.m. Robert, does that work for you to come and check out the place with us, or how does that work?
yeah, so usually what it is you go look at the place, you like it, you're going to put an offer, and then the agent, because usually they'll give about a week where they have showings, and then the agent will just book a showing for an hour or whatever, and then I'll come and inspect it.
Gotcha.
Now, what's some of the worst? I mean, you got to have some horror stories here doing inspections.
Yep.
So what's some of the worst things that you've seen?
So I always tell people I've seen everything but a dead body at this point. But the worst for me that always stands out is I did a house last year on in South Windsor on Church, so a good area, and I actually had to go through in a biohazard suit because the house he had died, it was vacant for 3 years, and he was a severe hoarder, and the roof had collapsed, and the basement was full of water, and there was no power or utilities of any kind. So I had to go in there with a biohazard suit with a flashlight and literally step over 4 feet of garbage.
And that house still sold for $600,000 in Windsor.
It was listed for $450. I think my buyers walked away because there was probably $300,000 of repairs,
Right.
at least. But yeah, I mean, they're asking $450, so it was kind of ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, welcome to the Windsor market. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And so was that like the hazmat suit? Was it more to do with the mold that was present? Was it just like rat droppings and things like that?
It was both. It was mold. There was animal infestation. Obviously, the basement had sewage water in it, so that wasn't good either.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty bad. So,
all the fun kind of stuff that you don't want inside your lungs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And because I'm a pretty honest guy. Sometimes, as a business owner, maybe too honest, to be honest with you. So when I got there, I told them, because I don't know what I can inspect, I don't know what to charge you. I'm not going to charge you a full fee if I get there and I can only look at 20% of the house. I'm going to feel like I cheated you. So I ended up just charging them, to be honest, not nearly what I should have. But I charged them what I thought was fair for the amount of time I was able to give them, which they were really happy. They left me a 5-star review, so that's good.
Well, that's very honorable. So that's a good thing. Absolutely.
Getting into the charging side of it, how does it work with home inspections? Is it just a flat fee? Is it the size of the home, square footage?
Yeah, some inspectors will do a square footage fee. The issue, and that's how I learned when I started 10 years ago, but the issue I found out right away is most houses, if they're not new, they don't post what the square footage is. So how do you know what the square footage is in our
Right.
So in the U.S. they do. I mean, that's where a lot of the training comes from, the U.S. And so I'm like, well, I don't know what to charge. My most houses fall $400. That's pretty common in our area. There's a couple guys that are a little bit more than that, but I mean, I'm 400 most houses.
Gotcha.
It goes up from there if it's a multiplex or something, or farther away. If I've got to go to Leamington, I'm going to charge a bit more for gas and stuff. Right?
And that's logical. So is there anything in terms of like the inspection side? Is there anything that you don't do, like in terms of certain types of properties or anything like that?
Well, like as a home inspector, we have we're supposed to follow rules, right? We're not licensed, so technically either one of you could just become a home inspector, say you are, and just go to town, and technically nothing could happen to you other than you'll get sued if you miss a bunch of stuff. I follow standards from the biggest association in the world. So what we really don't, we look at everything. What we don't look at are like hot tub and spas. We don't look at any appliances and any specialized system. So if there was like a water softener, reverse osmosis system, anything that's normally not in a house, we're not going to look at. And any low voltage wiring, security systems, speaker systems, we don't look at that. But just about everything else is going to be looked at. Mold and asbestos, there's kind of stuff we're not really supposed to mention. I do that separately as a separate service. So I kind of pull them aside and say, hey, like this could have asbestos. I mean, I can't put it in the report, but I mean, we can test for it separately.
So you can do asbestos testing as well.
And I do mold air testing, and I do radon now. Actually, I do radon testing.
Radon. So I've been hearing a lot of stuff much more and more about radon as of late.
Yes,
and it's
the government of Canada is educating a lot of people on it now because most people don't know what it is.
So from what I understand, it's a natural occurring element, right? It's
Correct.
on the periodic table. Don't ask me which one. I do not remember chemistry class that well.
Yes,
but it's naturally occurring. It's just in the ground. So some areas are kind of more prevalent than others to kind of having it. Is that fair? Or?
Pretty much. I'm not an expert on it by any means. But yeah, more or less, it's just some areas have a higher concentration depending on the soil. I think it's uranium in the ground. It just kind of decays and leaks into your house. So a lot of new builds, they will rough in a mitigation system, which is more or less just piping under the house. And a lot of times they'll have a fan that just kind of sucks the gas from under the house out the roof. But a lot of people don't know about it. It's a second leading cause of lung cancer behind smoking, and the main cause of lung cancer in non-smokers. I mean, so a lot of people
I have no idea about that.
I never smoked a day in my life. It's probably because you have radon in your house.
Wow.
I mean,
so how much does
to know?
Yeah, like how much does let's say somebody just says, hey, I've lived here. I'm not buying a new place, but this radon thing, I start seeing it popping up here in my feed. And now that I've been saying it for sure, my phone's been listening to me. So I'm going to start getting things, asking about radon, educating me in my Google feed for sure.
Yep.
But again, if somebody wanted to say, hey, I'm curious about radon, what does that kind of run somebody?
To be honest, I haven't even done a paid one yet. It's kind of a hard sell, I guess. Not a lot of people know about it, and I haven't pushed it either. I think I was going to charge around $250, $300. I bought the really expensive meter that tests quickly. Yeah. Because in the US, like it's pretty common. So they do a home inspection, do radon testing. It's like it goes hand in hand. But here it just doesn't really happen.
It's education right now.
Yeah. So, but I had gotten maybe 4 or 5 calls in the last few years, people asking if I do it, and I'm like, maybe I should just get the equipment. I mean, it's pretty expensive. So I got the equipment, and there's not a lot of companies. There's like a couple companies that actually do anything with radon, and I think the one's in Chatham, the closest one. I mean, so it was something I wanted to do. So I did it on my house and my family's houses, and got information of what the levels are supposed to be. And I'm kind of hovering like where I'm not quite high enough, but I mean, we're hovering pretty close.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but the rate, my quote was almost $6,000 for a mitigation system. So that's a little.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of the next steps then. Yeah. So that's kind of the next steps then is that once A, hey, we need to test. B, hey, here's the numbers. And it's like, there's a little bit because again, there's probably going to be something, right, showing. Whether it's enough to be necessarily concerned about, I guess that's what your guys' limitations are. And I have no idea what those are, but.
Well, the issue I found is that Canada has their level, the US has their level, and then the World Health Organization has their level. Canada has twice as much as what they're saying is okay compared to the health organization. So the health organization has a limit of 100. Canada has a limit of 200.
And so that's
Double.
what, parts per million that they're registering?
Yeah. Becquerels per liter.
Okay.
But Canada's allowing twice as much of a level than the rest of the world, which scares me. So, and then the U.S. is, I think, 125. They do it at a different reading, but it equals to about 125. So I'm like, well then, but Canada's allowing me to have double what the world is saying is not safe. So that's kind of...
So the ones that you said you did for family and friends, that if you were going by the U.S. or the World Health, they wouldn't have passed.
Well, my dad's was about in the 90s, so his was under the 100. I was about 150, 160. I mean, so technically I'm above the U.S. and the world, but below Canada's guideline.
Right.
I mean, but and you also test in the winter when your house is sealed up the most. So I put in a HRV system, a heat recovery ventilator, which since 2016 they're required in the building code. So most newer houses are going to have them. So now that I have that exchanges the air in your house. So that also is reducing the concentration in my home, right?
Now, how much does it, well, I mean, we already know how much. How long does it take to do a standard inspection?
For an inspection or for radon?
Just a standard inspection, but if you include radon in it.
So a normal inspection takes me an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's pretty typical for most houses. And then radon testing, because it's usually you need to do it quickly. For radon, the longer you test, the more data you get and the more accurate it becomes. But usually for the radon testing that I planned on doing were quick ones. So that's why I bought the really expensive machine, like 2 to 3 days realistically, because you kind of need a snapshot quickly of like, what are the levels right now before I buy this house?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was the idea. That's what they do in the US. Usually 48 hours. You have to leave the machine there in somebody's house that they haven't even bought yet and come back. And hopefully they have to seal the house up. So they have to keep the windows closed and the doors closed as much as possible and not tamper with this unit, right?
And then it's roughly about $6,000 for a
that's
unit.
What my quote was. I mean, they can be as low as I think 3,500. They told me, and they can. The sky's the limit depending on the complication.
Yeah, that's true. If you got to dig out the whole foundation and things like that, it can.
I have
a
horrible back split, so I have 2 separate basements, right? So they had 2 separate slabs. They had the drill under a sub pump. They had the seal floor drains. They had the seal. So it was a bit complicated for mine.
Gotcha.
Now you do commercial units as well?
I do, yeah. Commercial inspection. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. So in that aspect, so if let's say an investor's looking at buying a 10-unit apartment building, that's still in your wheelhouse too?
Yeah, I could do it. So pretty much there's another inspector. He does a lot of commercial. He's like the main commercial guy, northern inspection. So if I get a call for a very big project, I'm just going to send it to him because at the end of the day, I mean, he knows more than me just regards because he just does so many. So I'll just send him them, and then I mean he'll send me ones too. I'll do the smaller ones, pretty standard ones. But when we get to a huge, gigantic building, I mean, I'll just send it to him.
Now, when you do these inspections, just out of curiosity, because I'm always curious about the relationships and how things work. Does anybody ever argue with you about what you found or what you say needs to be done?
Yeah.
Or is it just they just say, okay, that's here it is and we're done?
Yeah, I mean, so like I'm sure it happens to other inspectors more than me. I'm pretty relaxed. I kind of get along with everybody. So I mean, a lot of people don't seem to argue with me too much because I just try to be respectful and just let everybody do their venting if they have to. I just keep it honest. But there has been times like maybe the homeowner's there, which ideally is not the situation you want to have when the seller's home because I'm ripping apart their house. But sometimes they'll be like, oh, that's not wrong, and that's not wrong. So when that, I wait to say anything until we leave, and then I just bring my clients aside and would say, okay, this is what I found, if they're not going to leave, because I don't want to cause any issues and make people uncomfortable, right? So I found ways to tiptoe around it. But sometimes agents will, it hasn't happened for a while, but I've had agents where maybe they didn't like what I put in my report because they feel like maybe there's too much or whatever, and they really want that sale to go through for their buyer. That doesn't happen too often, and those are the agents maybe that aren't the greatest. They should be looking out for what their buyer is good for them, not so much what's good for their pocket. Mm-hmm. But I haven't had that issue for a long time, actually. I've been pretty good. So a lot of the agents who do kind of refer me are like really good agents who are just honest, good people. So I've been lucky where I haven't had to deal with any kind of slanging ones for a while. So
nice. That's great. And so in terms of and kind of changing gears here to the energy audit side, is there, I mean, do people call you directly, just say, hey, I want to do an energy audit, or does a lot of that come via like provincial legislation or those kinds of programs through the government?
Yeah, so energy audits, not too often do people call me directly. So the energy audit program I do is a low income program through Enbridge. So it's been around a long time. I've been subcontracted to run it for the last 6 years in Windsor. I go all over Ontario too. So if you have it on Facebook, you'll see me traveling everywhere because it's an Ontario program. So, so what they'll do is in your bill, your gas bill that a lot of people don't ever read. And now that people get digital bills, they don't even see these digital pamphlets, but they'll have the pamphlet of the home winterproofing program. So it's free insulation, free thermostats, shower heads, aerators. And then I also do the other program at the same time, which is through the Ontario Energy Board called the Energy Affordability Program. So that's free light bulbs, new appliances. If you have electrically heated homes, insulation, heat pumps, mini split heat pumps now, all that good stuff. I mean, and I've been doing that for 6 years, thousands and thousands of houses, and it's all free.
Nice.
Now,
see, that's slick.
That's fantastic to know, because truthfully, I didn't know about half of that.
Yeah, Sean went through it, I believe, at one point, right?
I did. That was years ago, but yeah, it was actually, like right after the first...
Things have changed, actually. So, I mean, there's more stuff that you could probably get now that you didn't get before.
Yeah.
So maybe
go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, just government grant-wise. I mean, you know, I don't know what you know on that side, but if I have you inspect my home, and you say, hey, dude, you know, your R factor is like, you know, -3. You got to do something here. You know, how much does the government kick in?
Okay, so I don't do those programs anymore, the rebate programs. I used to. For me, they're too much paperwork and not enough money. But one, there isn't any right now because it ended. They ran out of the federal government, provided half the funds. It was called the HER Plus program, and Enbridge provided the other half. Well, everybody was putting in heat pumps because, I mean, the rebate was $6,500 for a heat pump, and I mean, which is a great deal. And heat pumps are super efficient, and the government ran out of money, so they pulled the program a couple months ago.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there will be one back at some point. But when people call me for those, I just send them to Bob Tellier. He's an energy auditor in Windsor. He's great. That's all he does. And he's the one who got me doing energy audits. So I send him to him because he's just the best. So
sorry, that's the heat pump program that they're no longer doing for now.
Well, the heat pump was one of the rebates. It's just the heat pumps are what a lot of people were taking advantage of. Because like for me, so the heat pump rebate was $6,500, and I have a heating cooling contractor that I refer a lot. He's great. He was charging $6,500 to put in a central heat pump, when most companies are between $10,000 and like $15,000. And he was charging $6,500. That's what the rebate was, and even at that money, he's still making good money.
Yeah, and I know nothing about heat pumps at all. Like, what is a heat pump?
So I'll explain. So air conditioning works by absorbing heat from inside and pumping it outside through refrigeration lines. Okay. So it pumps inside above your furnace. There's an A coil. It absorbs heat. It shoots it outside through the fan, and that's how. So it cools the air by doing that. Okay. So a heat pump does exactly the same thing. So the heat pump is the fan outside, and you'll see them all the time. You'll see those white. They're usually white
boxes.
Like
that's one.
Yeah, they're square. Not so much a square, but they're like a rectangle. Skinny rectangle.
Yeah.
So heat pump does the exact same thing as air conditioning, because it does air conditioning, but it reverses the cycle and it absorbs heat energy from outside and pumps it inside. So it doesn't actually produce any energy. It just moves heat from one
part of the envelope
to the other. Exactly. So to give you an idea, so a new gas furnace is about 96% efficient.
Okay.
Heat pump, about 300% efficient.
Oh, geez.
So $1 of electricity, you get $3 worth of heat energy. Right?
Wow.
Well, that's good to know. I'm going to start keeping an eye out for those programs.
And that's in heating mode. So in cooling mode, my AC is a 16 SEER, which is pretty good. Heat pumps start at 20, and they go up to like my mini split in my office right now is 28.1 SEER. So the higher the SEER, the more energy efficient it is.
Wow. So again, typically people have only one furnace. Well, let's say, and again, you remember my house, 2-story, 4 bedrooms kind of up. Would I need more than one heat pump to do the whole place?
No. So if you have ductwork, you put in a central heat pump. So your furnace stays as a heat source because you need the blower in the furnace to move the air around, just like when you're using air conditioning. It's just you would be using electricity as heat via the heat pump.
Gotcha.
And then the cold climate heat pumps work up to negative 30 degrees outside, so they can still produce heat up to that cold. And we don't get that cold here. So they make a lot of sense for our climate. And you just ideally, you want to have a newer furnace because you want to at least have a 96% efficient furnace to have the ECM motor for the blower, so it doesn't use a lot of electricity when you're running your blower all the time. Super efficient. So when the program comes back out, I'm getting one put in immediately.
So now you said it works. Sorry to cut you off, Dave. And so you said it works up to minus 30 outside, but you go all over Ontario. So, I suspect Thunder Bay is touching close to that for sure, right? In the winter.
Well, for them, it wouldn't make as much sense because it'll still save them energy, but they wouldn't be able to use it as much for the heating season. Gotcha. We would probably use it 99% of the heating season, other than maybe the 1 or 2 cold days where it just couldn't keep up. But they would only be able to use it very briefly. So maybe it wouldn't make a lot of sense for them.
Yeah. So you'd still have the two systems in tandem. So like my forced air gas furnace would still operate if it needed to. But
it would click on Windsor. That would activate it. If the heat pump couldn't keep up, it switches and it turns on the furnace, and you would run your gas furnace like normal.
Gotcha.
But it's just hugely more efficient.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah,
I had no idea about any of that. That is super cool.
Kind of a side note is an issue I've been seeing is a lot of people are flipping the houses in the villages of Riverside, right? And they have baseboard heat because it's all electrically heated.
Right.
They're putting in mini split heat pumps, which are what you use when you don't have ductwork. You have the head that comes inside on the wall, the big white head, and then you have the fan outside. And then so they're replacing baseboards, putting in heat pumps, which is great. But the issue is, like I just mentioned, if it's too cold, they don't work, and now they have no heat because
there's no heat in that area.
Right.
So I've done inspections, and I'm like, oh, this is a problem. Right.
Huh.
So it's another.
Yeah, issue. They don't have the backup there, and I don't blame them for doing it because I know there was a friend of mine who lived in the villages there, and the hydro bill was just insane.
I've heard that before as well.
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
My stepbrother, mind you, this is probably Tony 10 years. My brothers are here working about 10 years ago or so. They when he was young, he bought a house in the villages back when they were $70,000 or whatever. And they were getting $600 to $700 electric bills. They actually had to go bankrupt.
Oh,
they couldn't afford their house anymore because they couldn't afford the electric bills to heat it.
Oh, yeah,
$700?
Yeah,
mortgages were like $400 for a $70,000 mortgage. Then they're getting $600, $700, $800 electric bills.
Yeah, the person I know, their bill was running in the $350 to $425 range.
Yep.
Yeah. It was crazy.
It's brutal.
Holy cow!
I just did an audit. About 3 weeks ago for a young Indian couple. They're new to Canada. They bought a house in the villages. Paid $450 for this. It's a dump. And so I'm there looking at heat pumps and everything because it's electrically heated. And they had a newborn baby, probably 2 months old. And their house was 52 degrees in it because they couldn't afford to turn it on. They moved here. They've only had it 6 months or something. And they didn't know. They turned on the baseboards and cranked the heat up. Warm because they're from a warmer climate. And they got what he said, $600-$700 electric bill.
Yeah,
he got a jacked electric bill and then made the decision right there.
Yeah, they just had a little heater in the living room just to try to heat that little area, and it was freezing in their house.
Wow! So if you wanted to put in one of the pumps, but you didn't have the program, what do they run?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example for mine. So I have a portable building I brought in my backyard. So my office is 11 by 11 feet, all spray foam. So the heat requirement is very low. My heat pump, my mini split, only cost me $1,500 and then $600 to have it installed. But like I said, central heat pump. If you have ductwork, you'd put in a central heat pump. Like I said, my guy is about $6,500, but most companies are usually 10 to about 14, 15,000.
Okay, so that could be a good program. Yeah, that could be a good program to keep an eye on then if it does come up again.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I want your guy. I want your guy's number there.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah. Richie's awesome. Give him a plug.
That's perfect.
Now, when people are you getting more new homes or more older homes? I know everything's selling right nowadays, but
yeah. So I actually won't inspect new builds. I turn them away. Because new builds are garbage. Mm-hmm. I don't care what anybody says because
be straight about it. Tell us what you really think.
So not so much. So the issue when you do a new construction inspection is I have to look at the cosmetics.
Sure.
which I don't have to look at normally when you buy a house. So I have to look at the trim not lining up and the tiles crooked. And I mean, my OCD and my ADHD, it goes like I can't handle it. And then for the amount of work it is, and there's another inspector, he actually stopped doing them too because they just take too long. It's not worth. You could do 2 inspections for the time it's going to take you to do that one. It's just not worth it. And you can't charge somebody $800-900 to cover 2 inspection fees. No one's going to pay that. So you charge them $500, and I could have went and did 2 $400 inspections in the same time.
Right.
So I don't. I just toss them away. So not worth it.
And so in that circumstance, let's say somebody is getting a new build, and let's say it's not even a recent build, brand new build. What are their options then? Really, it's like let's say they say, hey, yeah, you know what? I need you to do me a favor. You're my brother. You're my cousin. You're whatever. I need you to come and look at this place. You're probably going to do it for them. Hey, I got to charge you a fee. Yeah, whatever. Don't care. And you spot something. Is it on the builder to do all those repairs and get it back up to what it should be?
Well, it kind of depends. So there's the Tarion warranty. So if they're a Tarion builder, then you kind of have like a warranty essentially. And that's the issue. So the Tarion. So my reporting system, I don't have access to a Tarion report. Where the other inspector, he does, because he has like a Canadian program. I have an American program. So for me, it's like I just wouldn't give as nice of a product to the customer. So I never really wanted to do them. So I've done new builds, but they were not a Tarion builder. So I didn't have to follow the Tarion warranty program. But yeah, for me, I just, luckily my family's poor, so no one would be buying a brand new home. But yeah, no, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want to do it. Yeah. They're no, I just said there's another inspector. I know I found out he does them. I mean, he's not the greatest inspector, but it is what it is. So I send them to them, and good luck.
Yeah.
So
well, and again, right? If somebody's dropping, again, I don't even know what a new build costs. I'm sure it's all over the place. It depends on the area and the size and this and that. But if you're buying a brand new house, it's almost like buying a brand new car. When you buy a brand new car, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. Like that's why people buy it. Of course, absolutely. Of course, there's it's human
there's
error. There's the thing, right?
Well, I mean, as you were saying before, the air exchange. There's a friend of mine. They bought a brand new home. Waited months and months and months for it to get built. And within the first year, they had mold around the windows and all over the place because the place was too tightly sealed.
Yep.
So you need that air exchange. The older homes, I mean, they're just they're creaky and the air flows through them and everything. That's it. Yeah. But the newer homes, they are tightly built, and without the air exchange, you can have a real problem there.
People don't realize the importance of the HRV, the heat recovery ventilator. So when I do inspections, and if a home has it, 9 times out of 10 it's unplugged. And you don't realize it's there to exchange the air. That helps with your indoor air quality, but also helps reduce humidity. Right? So I put one in my house. My house built 95. So because of all the work I've done, my house has been pretty air sealed. I've done my blower door test. And when you get under 5 air exchanges per hour, you really should have some kind of mechanical ventilation system. So we noticed we were having a lot of breathing issues. So I installed an HRV. I put in a polarized media filter, and I put in a UV light. And those 3 things have definitely helped improve our indoor air quality.
Those UV lights are super slick. A buddy of mine does HVAC out in Alberta, and he put one into, it's our rental place now, but it was our first home that we bought. He put that in there, and it was awesome. I love that thing. I regret not having one here now. I probably should just put one in.
Okay. I'm going to admit being totally unfamiliar with that. So, I mean, what is it exactly?
So the UV light, it goes in the ductwork after the filter usually. So right after the filter, typically above the A coil. So above your furnace, there's like the big box, and there's an A coil. That's where the air conditioning kind of component is. And it usually will be installed above there, and it just kind of shines down and just kills the germs in the air. It just like with UV light, it just kind of kills the bacteria. So, and because the A coil is where like the refrigeration kind of happens. I mean, if your system's kind of dirty and stuff, it could end up freezing up. So there's a lot of moisture there because there's a pan that collects condensation. So ideally, you kind of want it sanitizing there to kill anything that might be growing.
That makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's something like that run?
I'm not sure what companies charge. I found mine online. It cost me $150, $200 to buy one, and $100 to install it.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I think that's what I remember it being. It was like $300-400 or something like that with
Yeah. The bulbs
installation.
are good for like a year. A lot of them they come
Yeah.
with 2 or 3 bulbs. So mine's due for replacement. I think in late summer. And yeah.
Don't look at it. For anybody that has one of these, if you didn't know it, don't go down and start looking into your furnace. That was a no-no. Trevor told me, he's like, now don't you look at that bulb. You could go blind.
Okay.
Because it is like...
They have a little peek hole and cut into the thing that came with it, so you could just see it's glowing just to show. And there's a digital display thing that shows like that it's working and how many days left till I have to change it.
Yeah, exactly. And
and
if you're replacing the bulb,
by the way, there.
Yeah, safety tip, exactly. Safety 101. Don't stare at the UV light inside your furnace. You're staring at the sun.
Hey, there you go. That's what I can use my my solar eclipse classes for. I'm good now.
I thought I'd only use them once. Turns out.
There you go.
Perfect.
Well,
perfect.
Rob, I'm glad we got a chance to talk to you today. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Just, if people want to get a hold of you directly, how can they do it?
I mean, I have a website, redmondhomeinspections.com. You got a lot of information there. I'm all over Facebook. I have Instagram. I don't really use it too often, but I do have it. Or just call me, 519-817-6346. I can give you information about the energy audit program, or just contact Enbridge directly, and they'll give you the number for Clear Result, who's the company that runs it. And then, if you need a home inspection, I mean, I'm here for you. If you Google home inspectors, you're going to find me at the top of Google anyways. I mean, so you'll likely come to me anyways, but I mean, give as much time as you can. There is not a lot of inspectors. There was 30 when I started 10 years ago. There's maybe 7 or 8. And of the 7 or 8, there's probably maybe 4 that are worth hiring. So realistically, they're always going to be really busy. My next availability is not till Monday right now, and that's almost full. So, I mean, give as much as you can.
Okay,
gotcha.
So don't call and expect it the next day.
No,
good tip.
One that needed one tomorrow, I don't have time. So
good tip. Okay, excellent.
Perfect.
Well, again, thanks for showing up. We appreciate your time here. And Sean, do you have any last questions or?
No, that was great, Robert. Thank you again. Again, I learned a couple of things, and I've got some notes here. So for sure, I'm going to make sure I keep an eye on that heat pump program when she comes back around, and a good reminder to kind of reevaluate looking at that UV light for the furnace. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the Real Connection podcast, where we're discussing everything real estate, building them, changing them, inspecting them, financing them, all the fun stuff under the sun. And so we were very lucky today to be joined by Robert Redmond from Redmond Home Inspections. So if you guys have a house that you want to get inspected, or you're looking at putting in an offer here soon, give this gentleman a call. He is phenomenal. I have personally used him. So thank you very much, Robert. We appreciate all your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye.